so that you're not wondering who we're talking to and, who's this person you're talking to? I don't see them in the chat. Well, they're probably in somebody else's chat. Hi,
Exactly.
Pisces greeter, Teresa. Hi, Dana.
Hello, hello.
Um,
And just want to mention again, Happy Heart. Thank you for posting that question twice. Um, we actually don't take questions from the chat during the lives on Wednesday. We do, however, each one of us on Saturday sometime will put up a little thumbnail and we'll invite you to post your questions for the show at that point. So that's where we take the questions that we will be reading on today. If we have any questions, I'm not sure.
we have we have we have two. We have
Two,
two
excellent,
questions.
excellent, perfect. Yeah. So, absolutely. If you'd like Happy Heart, by all means, you can go to any of our channels and leave a comment in the comment section even after this video and say that this is my question, and then we'll take a look at it next week. Absolutely. Yeah. And
For
hello to
sure.
everyone that's coming in.
And we've got
Oh, hi,
Mary.
Arlene.
Mary
Yeah,
is
Arlene.
here, and Arlene is here.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
thank y'all for showing up. Our topic tonight is how do you work through grief? And it's kind of fitting. Thank
Yeah.
you. Who was it? Allie that thought it up. I was drawing a blank. I couldn't think of a topic for this week. It's just been that kind of week for me. And Allie said, why don't we touch on grief, especially with what's happened in Hawaii? And
Yeah.
it was like, yep, perfect. Exactly. So I guess I'll start this show with it. I tend to shut down when I'm grieving. And I don't, I'm not very social when I'm grieving. It's like I just can't pull the energy to be like that. But if I'm around other people, most of them would never know I was grieving because I don't show it. I don't cry in front of other people. I don't. Um, I know when my husband died, a lot of people thought, well, how come your mom never cries? They would ask my son. He was like, oh, she does. She just doesn't do it in front of you. She
Yeah.
cries at home at night when she goes to bed. Thinks no one can
Yeah.
hear her. And it's just a way of working through that because when you're grieving for something you've lost. Um, if it's a person or a pet, I mean, doesn't matter if you grieve for them; they're gone; they're not here anymore. Um, I mean, their spirit is probably still around, and they just want you to be okay, feel better. They don't want you to linger on it too much. But for
Yes.
us, it's that emptiness that we feel. I think that's been the hardest part for me is just being able to work through that hole in your heart that you have, and you try to fill it up with all kinds of stuff. And for me, when my mother died, it was this community saved my bacon. I stumbled
Mhm.
upon it, and it did everything that I needed at that point in time for me. And for that, I am eternally grateful to each and every person that I've met from day one. I mean, um, yeah, they made a big difference. And now I've got a whole group of sisters that, I get to talk to every week. And if I have a problem, I can go and gripe to one of them, and they're willing to listen. And so we're very, very lucky in that respect. And I think it's just something that we each have to work through on our own, at least as far as how I handle it. Um, Marina, what about you? How do you work through your grief?
One of the interesting things with grief, psychologically, is we all want to find an answer. We all want to have a reason why something happens. And it's like if we know why, somehow it makes it easier to handle. And so, the anger is a part of grief. There's a point that, yeah, you do get angry and whatnot. Um, I got a very, very powerful lesson in grieving when my dad passed away. And we knew that he was sick. He had already battled cancer once and survived it. And on the 5-year anniversary, when you go for that 5-year checkup and they say, no, everything is fine. Yeah, that's when they found the lump on his lungs again.
Oh.
So it was bittersweet. So I was lucky enough in that we had an opportunity to talk about things that were uncomfortable because we knew that his end was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, sometimes we would spend the evening just sitting on the couch, watching TV, not saying anything, and yet communicating the whole time.
Yeah.
So, I was there when he passed, and I've said it was one of the most beautiful experiences that I was ever part of in terms of helping him transition. My sister was there as well, so we kind of shared that experience. Um, I my grief in that moment was it was sort of tempered only because I'd had the opportunity to talk to him. And we had discussed a lot of things. So I never felt like there was something that was unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
What I was grieving was that the personality of him, the essence of what he wasn't going to be available to me in the way that I understood it. In terms of, hey dad, I need this, or can you do this, or whatever, right? That part, it hurt. And I was lucky enough, yes, that I had a wonderful support system around me, people who would let me say whatever I needed to say, and who didn't mind spending the time with me as I would, kind of go over some of Dad's mannerisms or some of the things that he said or that he did, because yeah, Dad was born in the former Yugoslavia, grew up there, came to Canada as an adult, never lost his accent,
Mm-hmm.
and always felt that um, people should understand what he was saying because he understood what he was saying. So he had his own language. He would make up his own words for things and look at you kind of funny, like, what do you mean you don't understand? You know, he would say things like, instead of, oh, can you imagine how big this elk was? He would say, can you imagination? And you just so those were the things that I missed. And those are the things that I grieved because, it was always like, okay, what else would he have come up with that would just be a source of laughter? So it was yeah, grief is very much a double-edged sword because we know in a way that they're not gone. We know that they're just, we can't see them in our form right now, but it's still painful.
Mm-hmm.
Still
That
painful.
is. Thank
Yeah.
you, Marina. Allie, what about you? How do you deal with your grief?
Well, I gave birth to a grief counselor. My daughter is a marriage and family. She does grief
Oh wow.
and narcissistic parents and spouses. Those two areas she deals with. But one of the things she's taught me a lot. But I've always felt that, you know, I was glad that I was metaphysical because I have a belief around the idea of heaven and where people go. But what really touched me was the saying that grief is love with no place to go.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so if we could take the grief and put it back into ourselves, I mean, the love and put it back into ourselves or something else. And I don't mean as a replacement, like if I lose a pet, I usually get a pet, but it isn't as a replacement. It's just another thing to love. So I've lost both parents. I've lost both brothers. So I am basically an orphan. I've lost two nephews under the age of 40. And I know that Val and I know that Sharon have lost children. So I don't claim that I'm the one with the bigger losses here. Not at all. But I just want to say that for me, just the belief system that I have helped me so much. And what happens to me, Sherry, you say you go inside. What I do is I got to take charge of everything. I'm going to plan this, and I sing at the funeral, and I'm the person that does the, that does the what do you call it? The ritual thing,
Yeah.
And so I'd like to just leave you all with this, because this is what I keep my parents, a picture of my parents when I was at my third wedding, but they both passed very shortly afterwards. My mother there is my age now.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah. And but I found this and I love it. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awake in the morning's hush, I am the swift upflinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft star shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
That's beautiful. I've read that before. That's
yeah. It's a beautiful. It is beautiful. Yeah.
And I know I have to add. I didn't think to say it earlier. The year my husband died was my last semester in college, and I waited 4 semesters on a waiting list to get into the class, and it was a sociology class on death and dying.
Whoa.
And I was taking that class, and my husband died. 9/11 happened, and so that class probably helped me work through those 2 major catastrophes in my life better than anything. And but I always highly recommend anybody, if you're having issues, see a counselor.
Or Elizabeth Kubler-Ross lists all the 5 stages of grief, and it really does help. And nobody has a corner on how long it takes. Some people it doesn't take as long as others, but she's got some beautiful explanations. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Sherry.
Allison, how about you? How do you work through your grief?
I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, it's very personal, and everybody is so vastly different, and the relationships that they have and everything else. It's one of those things that, like, I don't even, I've lost people that are close to me, and people that I loved, but thankfully, the people that mean the most to me are still here. And so, I feel blessed in that way. And my heart breaks for people that have lost, like, I can't even say it. There's relationships. It's like, I don't even, And so, like, So, so I can't even begin to compare what I've been through to what others have been through. And I have deep empathy for some of the relationships that you can lose, especially, before you're up in age, which it makes sense that you would lose more people when you're older, but that's not always how it works. Yeah. And it just seems so unfair, but it's really my belief system, the things that I know about that, and really do believe that we choose when, we choose our exit points and all of that, and people can believe that or not. I believe that. So I think that, we just don't remember that we all agreed that you were going to go when you were 17, or whatever it was. I had I had a cousin, and it's just like it shook and rocked our entire family forever. And those kinds of things, and just it's just and I lost a very dear friend of mine actually the night that my son was conceived, and so he's named after him. And just, and those were all hard, those deaths, but there's others in my family and close to me that when those days come, it's like I can't even fathom that. And so I guess the biggest thing for me is that I know that my mom used to say something, or she said it a few times anyways, and I just remembered it. She would say, death is hard for the living.
Yes.
It's not hard for the dead. The dead are fine. The dead are awesome, and and so she would talk about like when we would have a funeral or something like that. And so, or we would be talking about somebody, or anyhow. So, but as far as I go, the people that I have lost in my lifetime since I was adult, anyhow, it was just kind of compartmentalized, and I handled it as I could. I have no problem crying and grieving in front of other people. None, zero.
Yeah.
And not that makes me whatever. I'm just saying. I'm very, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I always have. Yeah. And it's what's kept me balanced. And death of loved ones was part of, what I had to go through, like all of us, we lose people. But that's all I have to say about it. And it's a very personal thing. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. And yes, it takes some people, go through things quicker, some longer. It depends on what the relationship is. Children, I don't think you ever get over that. I'm just going to say that I just don't see how you do. You just learn how to live with it, and you do what you can and all of that. Like my aunt with my cousin, I just, and other people that I know. And, it's just, I don't know why we would ever plan something like that, but apparently we do. And, it's all part of this damn trip to Earth that we all sign up for.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all I have. Yeah. It's hard.
Thank you, Allison.
It's definitely hard.
Yeah.
Sharon, what about you? How do you work through your grief?
Well, for some reason, this lifetime, I've had a lot of grief, more than most people. So I for some reason, I have to learn this lesson. My stepson, although we loved each other so much, he was like my son. We were in a terrible car accident. I think you guys have all heard this, but a terrible car accident, and he died when he was 13. He died instantly. But it's funny, there were signs a week before he died. There was many signs spiritually that, looking back, we went, oh. And he leaves me lots of signs, from the spirit world. It's really wonderful. And then I had, within the last 2 years, had a nephew, my sister's son, died in an avalanche, Whistler, BC.
Wow.
And then 2 years, I guess it's 3 years ago now. And 2 years ago, my brother's son was murdered, which is
just awful, Sharon.
Yeah, which is,
How do you come back from that?
That's so rare in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my mother, who I was very, very, very close to, she was my best friend, she was 82. It wasn't the fact, but what's shocking about it was that it was the hospital's mistake. And, and I didn't get to say goodbye to her. But I was there. I remember the last time I saw her in the hospital. I had to go for my own surgery in a different city. So I went and hugged her and said, I'm going to be back. They say 2 weeks recovery, but I'll be back in a week. I'll be fine. And I'll come get you. And we won't close up your apartment, but you're going to come live with me. And, we'll see how it goes. Meaning if she wants to do that. And I all set to retire at age 61. through their negligence, she died. So that
Wow.
was a lot to get
Yeah.
over. And
Yes.
I saw a quote the other day. I think it was just yesterday. Something about you never get over the death of someone, or particularly a child. You
Mhm.
just move through it. You always carry it with you, but you move through it. But you don't ever forget it.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So, and of course, I've had friends now that my age. I'm having friends dying.
Yeah.
I know when my ex-husband goes, I'll really grieve that too. How many people can
Sure.
say that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Father of your children.
exactly.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
how did I get through it? Particularly the hardest one was my stepson. Well, counseling,
Mhm.
and I did have to take 6 months off of work. Fortunately, with the teaching profession, we have a fund. It's self-funded. It's funded by all your fellow teachers. It's not from the school district or from the government. And so you can go on leave and you get 50% of your salary, but tax-free.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I'm looking after two dogs. They must have seen a squirrel. Yeah, so I know when my son died, I like you, Allison, I wore my heart on my sleeve, and I would start to cry, just start to cry, and some
Yeah.
people ran. I go, no, please don't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very uncomfortable discussing it.
Very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And very few just said, one teacher, male, his wife was a doctor, is a doctor, and when he saw me crying, he said, grief, and I said, yeah. I just had to let it flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it took I'd say for my son to get over the really awful part of the grief, it took 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
to anyone out there, don't know what they're doing back there. Anyways, get the help you need.
Mm.
And yes, there'll be times when you want a cocoon and you need to be by yourself. Like I remember my wife and I getting up in the morning, and for the first long while, particularly the first 6 weeks, we'd wake up and there'd be that few seconds of, another day, and then it would all hit you. It was just so
Yeah.
surreal.
Yes.
Anyways, so obviously, and my daughter's so critically ill. So obviously, I had some lessons to learn, and it's my spirituality that keeps me sane.
Beautiful share, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Val, how about you? How do you work through your grief? And you're muted.
Well, it's a long process. I too had a lot of warnings and information coming in, so I knew something was going to happen. And I had the impetus to get my whole entire family together to gather them. And it was 4 months after that I lost my 38-year-old son to a pulmonary embolism. And he was my firstborn.
Oh.
So special bond there. If you have children, there's something about your firstborn that is special.
Mhm.
So I, being a Pisces, could cry at the drop of a hat. But like Sherry, I like to it was too painful and personal. I would just grieve internally. And I mean, I went to every spirit healer. I tried to get energy to flow. I did X, Y, Z. I didn't sit around on my laurels. I wanted to move through this grief, knowing that I had him cremated because, or I asked his wife, I said, just have him cremated because he's not in there.
Right. That's right.
So anyway, and we had a beautiful service for him where we scattered his ashes, and it was an ongoing process that took about 7 to 8 years and only abated when I finally something came in front of me to allow me to release this grief, this 8 years of grief, where if I put one foot in front of the other, but I wasn't really alive. You can imagine.
Yeah.
It was a Buddhist practice of letting go of grief. And I have it on my website. If anyone needs to utilize that, go to the playlist called Spiritual Tools, and it's how to release grief. This is a process of sitting down, creating a table in front of a window that has, like, you could put rice and water, whatever, make it like a little ritual table with a candle, and every day at sunrise you have an appointment to meet your whoever passed. You're meeting them there, and it's all in there, telling them things, and you're also letting them go. It doesn't mean you are not connected to them and saying, I'm never connected to you again. No, it's you letting them go of their earthly life here. And you become more connected after you do all this, let me tell you, because I've even seen my son. So to make a long story short, I highly recommend this 40 to 45 day practice of getting up. Somewhere in there between like day 30, you're going to start not getting up, and you're going to feel like you almost don't need it, but keep it up. You will be a different person after you're done. You literally will feel lighter, and it will lift from you, because this was the only thing that did it, and it came in front of me when I was ready. And not everyone is ready for that yet, but if you ever do, I recommend that practice. It really made all the difference, and here I am. I'm alive. Knowing that my son is well, and I communicate with him, and he's doing fantastic. I can see him, and when you're in deep in grief, you can't. You can even go to mediums, and they aren't going to give you information that's going to sound like you're dearly departed. It's all going to ring hollow to you when you're in that period of grief, that nothing can help you until you're at that point where you're going to let it go.
Right.
So
another beautiful share. Thank you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I have something to add that's actually, it's macabre, but also a bit comedic. The first Christmas, Jordan died in July, and December, it's like the day before Christmas, and I'm wrapping presents up in the spare bedroom, and we had him cremated, but we had the ashes stored in that closet in that room till we were ready to do something with it. Anyways, I went into the closet looking for something, and I heard him tell me, wrap me up and put me under the Christmas tree. I want to be.
I love that. That's awesome.
And so some people would
no,
they go, oh, well, who's this present for? And I went,
for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. You know, I think with my father, with my mother, with my brother, with my kids, we talk about, you have to talk about death when you're alive. You have to say, what do you want done? How do you want it done? Write down this, do that. Yeah. And so I even bring it into my college classes. We always have at least one conversation about death and dying, because people are so afraid of it. It's so fearful in your mind and heart. Yes. And I've had more people tell me, thank you for doing that. You know, they're 18, 19 years old. They don't want to think about that. Yeah. But then they lose their grandparents, or they lose their, whatever. And so it needs to be talked about. And
That
I'm so
reminds
happy now
me
you did
when I
what you
took
did.
that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of when I took that class, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the girls in the death and dying class, her twin was doing a internship for her major. She was working in the second tower that got hit.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
And what happened, according to the twin who was there to tell us that day, her sister, their office faced the other buildings. So they were like several floors below, but they saw the plane hit it. And
Wow.
everyone was in shock. And their boss was like, everybody out now. And she said, and of course, there was announcements being made, stay in your place, blah, blah,
Stay.
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And
you
she
get the
said,
hell
no,
out
her
of there.
boss was telling them,
Yeah.
get out of the building now.
Yeah.
They were 3 blocks down the street when their
second.
building got hit. And she never would have got out because it hit about 4 floors below where their office
Mhm.
was at.
Mhm.
And so, and for her twin to show up to that class that day
Yeah.
to tell us that
It's
and
all
tell us,
planned, Sherry.
my sister, is still with us.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it
Wow.
really gives you pause and makes you
It
think
does.
of just
Absolutely.
how my late husband, anytime we went to a funeral, he would always look at me and say, I don't want people looking at me in a coffin.
Oh, me either. Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh, God,
what
no.
difference is it going to make? You're going to be dead. He's like, I don't want people looking at me in a coffin.
I don't want anybody
So we
coming
did not
either.
have viewing. We had a private viewing for his family
Mm-hmm.
because I knew his brothers and sisters would need the closure, and a couple of members of my family that came over, and that was it. We didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We just had like a wake with lots of pictures and then a graveside service. Very, very basic. Very no frills. And my
Yeah.
mom didn't want any of that stuff. She was just like, just cremate me and be done with it. So
The
that's what we did.
celebrations of life now that people do instead of
Yeah.
funerals
Yes.
are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they really,
So
really.
much more
It's more uplifting. You're
Yeah.
you're saying
And I
goodbye and
think
you're
of all those
celebrating
poor
their life.
people in Hawaii right now, that
Yeah.
people that they're saying now that had gotten in their cars to leave, and there was only one way in or out
Yeah,
of where
they
they
get
were
burned up
at.
in their cars. Yeah.
And they either burned to death in their cars, or they had to jump out of their cars and run over the rocks to the water.
Yep.
And there's
Yeah.
still thousands of people missing. They don't know.
Oh,
Are they just lost somewhere?
Yeah.
Are they battered amongst the rocks? Did they drown? Did they burn?
Right.
And that to
I'm
me
sure there'll be
seems
some
like
that
that
drown
would
as
be
well.
harder to deal with
Mm-hmm.
than knowing how your loved one died and
Yep.
being able to have that closure of having that unknown element where you just sit and wait to hear.
Yep.
That's got to be torture in and of itself. And to me, I can't imagine that.
Totally.
going back to
you
my.
know,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, going back to my mother's death, I happened to stay with her. I was going to stay with her for a week, and then go on to help my daughter who's ill. But my mother, she had a cracked vertebrae. It was a compression fracture in her back too.
Yeah.
Anyways, I ended up being there for 5 weeks. And in that time, she told me things she had never told me before. So looking back, and she kept talking about her grandfather Walter, which she never really talked about him.
Come on.
Yeah, and so looking back, the things she told me and we discussed, on some level, she knew she was going, and that's why
Yeah.
she was discussing those things.
Yep. About a month before my husband died, he kept talking about, when I die, I want to hear this song, this song, this song
Wow.
played at my funeral, and yeah, I mean, they were just little things. He would just say things off the top of his head, and I think we all kind of knew it was coming because he was so ill.
Oh, he was ill. I was going to ask that
He
question.
was very ill. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when.
Yep.
And it
Right.
he knew, and he kept dropping little hints that he knew, and I think I knew, I just didn't want to accept it. And but yeah, it can be difficult. It can be difficult,
Mhm.
and everybody grieves in their own way. Some people, you know, do it publicly. Who's to say? Maybe those people that wail and gnash their teeth out on the street, maybe they got something going there to
Oh yeah.
get it out of their system, you know. But
Yeah.
some of us can't. So
Everybody does it their own way. There is no handbook that comes with it. There is no
No.
guidebook to
and
say
there's no right or
do A,
wrong.
B, C, and D, right? And
Yeah,
everybody's different. And everybody reacts differently.
exactly.
So, yeah, you do what you need to do to make it through the day, to get to the next day, and hope that the next day is better.
Mhm.
And
It's a
how long is it gonna
monumental
take?
effort to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there were days after my husband and after my mom when just getting out of bed
Was a
took a major effort because you just don't even want to get up.
Yeah.
And well,
I
thank
just
you,
can't
ladies,
help
for
but think
sharing.
about the COVID people, the ones that
we
nobody
couldn't
could talk
survive.
to,
Nobody
see
was
them, all
there.
that. That was such a tragedy that,
I
you
was
didn't even
so
get to say
thankful.
goodbye. Yeah.
I was so thankful that my
Absolutely.
mom died about 6 months before COVID
Mm.
because I don't think I could have handled it if we would not have been
Sure.
able to have spent that last 2 months with her when she was in hospice. And I really felt for people that couldn't be with their loved ones, you know, and the doctors and nurses that had to fill in.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, that's a lot
Yeah.
to have to take on. That's shouldn't be yours to take on. Um, well,
Well,
thank you,
now that
ladies.
everybody's depressed,
Yeah, now that we're all
I
down in
mean,
the dumps and
I don't
everybody's
get depressed. I
let's
mean,
change the subject
Yeah.
and do some readings.
I
well,
don't.
we've got
I don't feel
20
depressed.
minutes left, and
I have really, moves with me. Like my
Uh-huh.
spirit
Uh-huh.
being connected to spirit has really. I mean, I'm happy. I have a
yeah,
content life.
That's
I mean,
good.
there was in the early, the early part of the grief over Jordan. I wanted to kill myself.
Sure.
And the only reason I didn't take action on that was I couldn't do that to my two daughters. That
Mhm.
yeah,
I just couldn't. So I
yeah.
toughed it through and God help. Oh, I wanted to say that with my mother, I had to go off to my own surgery and she was in hospital then. And I gave her a great big hug and I kissed her and I said, "It'll be a week. I'll be back to scoop you up and take you home. We're going to have so much fun." And then I turned around, said goodbye, turned around, got to the end of the bed, and then something told me to turn around, go back, and give her another hug and another
Mhm.
kiss. And that was the last time I saw
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, the last
Well,
time I saw my mom,
I did witness her death. That was
Yeah.
That's a
brushed
lovely
by.
memory, though. That's
It
lovely.
is. It's a lovely memory, and
Yep.
yeah,
the hospice nurse called us the day before my mom died and said it's going to be anytime.
yeah.
Come say your goodbyes now. And we did. We went and stayed. And the last thing I said to my mom was, "I love you. And it's okay. You can go now.
Mhm.
We'll be able to take care of
That's an
ourselves."
important thing to do,
You know,
actually.
Yeah.
and- yeah. And I think just telling her, "You can go now. We're going to be
Mhm.
okay."
Mhm.
You know, released, I feel like it released something in her to say, "Okay, I
Yeah.
can let go of this world and
Yeah.
move on."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all
No,
right, ladies. Well, we got 20 minutes
I mean,
left.
I've learned so much, and also I get so many signs, and they pop into my head, and I know it's them.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about my mother this morning to some friends. I was at this coffee place, and the woman that runs the place, she does these gourmet kind of tapas kind of stuff.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
No,
she
no,
said she'd
go
be
ahead.
right back.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I said that my mother was a gourmet cook, and what she did for us was she created a binder full of her favorite recipes and gave it to each of us, me and my siblings. And as I was saying that, I could feel her standing right here.
Mhm.
presence. So, yeah, you know, if you're open to it, they come and visit you.
Absolutely.
They do.
Okay, well, we got 2 questions.
Okay.
Now that everybody's kind of, let's see if we can boost it up a little bit here. We had 2 questions that got
It's a hard
posted.
topic, but it's important.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
it needs to be talked about. It needs to be, well, for lack of a better word, normalized. It's a part of life. It's a part of a process.
Yeah.
And we're not doing ourselves or people around us any favors by pretending that it's not there. Right? Yeah, we need to. It's uncomfortable, but we need to.
I mean, even to this day, and it's been since 2006, I still have it. I'll have a day suddenly where I start to cry about Jordan.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to
Yeah, I'll
talk
have to go
about
get my
Tommy
cards.
Tuberville.
I'm going to
Tommy
go get my cards. Hold on.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. First question up. Mr. Tuberville,
Military
who is
promotion.
in the
You mean the
process
guy
of
that's a
building up
racist?
all of these promotions.
Did you guys hear now? I heard on the news today that after the 4th indictment that Trump put in riggers, and that's the new word now that for the N word for all his people.
Oh, wow.
That
Yeah.
does not surprise me that he didn't come
No,
up
it
with
doesn't
his
surprise
own
me either, but it
way
makes
of-
me upset. Yeah.
That's one of the signs to me that he knows his days are numbered. He knows that the time is coming when he and those like him are going to be shunned, and their polite society is not going to want to have anything to do with them. So that's why they're doing all these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I got my card, and it really speaks volumes for me, anyway. He wants to rewrite history.
Yeah.
Look they're burning the books. They're burning the
Yeah.
books. And that's exactly what it is. These military promotions are for a Trump presidency, so they can rewrite history to the way that they want things to go. And actually, it's like the brown shirts or whatever in the Nazi party.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Mhm.
Fealty.
Yeah. That's right.
Marina, what about you? What'd you get?
Well, what I got, and this is from the Starseed deck, was you're not for everyone.
And he isn't.
No. And there's this is someone facing a surmountable or insurmountable object that is in front of them. So, he can do all he wants. He can say all he wants. He could hope for all he wants. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Val, how about you?
I the Grand Wizard. So you could take that a million different ways.
Sure.
Let's just say somebody is getting paid off to make this situation happen.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So they can rewrite their history.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How about you, Sharon? What'd you pull?
I've got the 9 of Wands. He's holding on to the fort, the last gasp, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's holding on. So, yeah, definitely. He's holding on, thinking of a Trump presidency.
Yep.
Well,
Allison, what you got?
Oh, you're muted.
You muted, honey. Yeah.
Sorry. I do think so. Yes, I do think he's wanting to do this. I pulled the spread because I forgot for a second, but what's most important, Ace of Swords. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to work.
No.
But that is the
No.
intention. Yes.
I pull the Queen of Swords reversed, and I don't do reversals. My cards never. So it's like, okay, there's a reason for
That's
that
an evil
because
witch.
she, well, and she's supposed to stand for honesty and whatnot, but reversed.
Yeah, but in reverse.
That's telling me that's telling me that they're working. They're still working in subterfuge.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
still trying to
Oh, thank
sneak
you.
through the back door
Can
when
you
they
roll?
think no one's looking. So, but let's see. Let's
Wow.
go to not following
The
me,
guy
whatever.
that, Doug Jones was in there before Tuberville. Doug Jones, Tuberville beat him. He was such a nice man. Honest to God, he really was.
Yeah.
I hope he goes back. They bring him back because he needs to be.
Or
there.
anybody else, just
Yeah.
Really.
somebody decent. Well, not
Yeah.
anybody else, but somebody decent.
Right.
I mean, even
Totally.
another Republican that's a decent,
Well, I don't know that we have that.
middle of the road Republican, I would be happy with.
Yeah. Yep.
With them. But and a few of them are starting to speak up and say enough's enough. Okay, next question up. Do we think that Chris Christie will be the front runner on the Republican ticket?
Okay.
Well,
I'm
if
getting-
he
I'm
is, he's
getting
got
a
a lot
yes.
of mountains to climb.
Yeah.
I'd rather see him in there though, as the person
Yeah.
of all of them. But he's somebody. We already know that Trump's got his goat. So to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God.
Absolutely.
Well, right now he's got the great open road ahead. We'll see where this leads.
Yeah.
It's kind of like open right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I think he's saying a lot of things that those people who have sort of woken up a little bit can understand,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, okay, here's a guy who was a staunch supporter who, when things started to come out, said, whoa, hey, all right, did not sign up for this party, right? So I think he's going to resonate with a lot of people. Yeah, he's going to go up against the demon. Yeah.
That man gave him COVID. I
Yeah.
would go after him too.
mhm.
Yeah.
Trump gave him COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about you, Allison?
All about the money.
Well, you're asking if he'll be the front runner for the ticket. Yes, that's a yes.
Okay.
Any ace. Yeah. Yes.
Sharon, what about you? What'd you get?
Well, I pulled two cards because this card came up again. So I think he's got a hard battle, battling against the megas, but there's going to be big change.
Yeah.
He's going to be
Ah.
moving forward.
I pulled a Six of Swords. So I don't know.
Send those mega people packing.
Maybe that's a good interpretation of it, because I was looking at it saying, does that mean he's leaving, or does that mean he's heading over to take over for them? I mean, it could be looked at as one of two ways. Either he's leaving, going somewhere to make a stand, or he's running away. And the vibe I get from him is just that he thinks that he's going to be able. The energy I get off of Christie is that he thinks he's going to be the front runner, and he may just be bold enough to pull it off, because he sure as heck doesn't have any trouble whatsoever giving Trump what for. and speaking his mind about them. I mean, I've caught several clips now of him on different news shows where he's just flat out put it in their face, and even on Fox.
He's
And,
actually leading in New Hampshire over Trump.
New
Yeah.
Hampshire.
this is the man who did this spiteful thing with the bridge between New York and New Jersey, right? So it's like he can be pretty damn vindictive himself when he's not happy. And
Doesn't New Hampshire usually predict who's going to win?
That's in the election.
In the election, that's true.
Yeah.
Could I ask a follow-up question?
yes,
Of course.
Is there going to be any other strong candidates that are going to enter the race to take away votes from Trump?
As far as Democrat and Republican?
No, just for
Republican?
the Republican nomination.
Okay.
I think there's a good number of people who realize that Trump is not going to be their nominee. And if he is their nominee, they are not going to win any seats, and he's going to take everybody down with him when he goes down, and he will.
March 4th is the Georgia. That's when she wants to have the Georgia thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's going to be televised. So I think that's what they need. I really do, to televise it.
It has to be televised. People need to be able to see the other people involved, to hear what they have to say, to see Trump, to hear what he is saying in a court of law versus what he's telling them on their Truth Social. They need to see the two parts so that it will give them an opportunity then to say, well, wait, why is he saying that? Right? So it's really important for democracy that it be televised.
Is the March 4th Fani Willis trial?
That's what she wants.
That's
That's
what
what she wants.
Yeah. It hasn't been
decided yet.
Yeah, not on the schedule yet. So
I don't even think he'll be around then.
Yeah.
What you got, Sherry? I can't see it.
the high priestess.
Oh,
I don't.
Lots of secrets going on there.
But people who are coming in looking like they're truth seekers with assertiveness are going to somehow lead the way by twisting things a little bit, along with that high priestess situation. Yeah. So I feel like there'll be additional candidates who will appear to be wielding this sword of truth.
Yeah, I got them all burning down the idol. Look at.
I'm sorry. What are you guys doing on?
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
Wow.
Burning the idol. This is whether or not there'll be another front runner in the Republican Party.
Right.
Sharon had a follow-up
Okay,
question
I
to the
missed
Chris
that.
Christie
Sorry,
question.
guys.
that's okay.
So may I go next?
Yes, ma'am.
I've got the Four of Wands, which said to me, because in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, it's the White House. We even talk about the White House. I say, there's going to be new partnerships and that sort of thing. And yes, I see other people running for the White House.
And Allison, you don't see 45 making it to next year?
I don't think so.
A lot of people have said that. I agree with you, Allison.
Yeah.
I just don't.
He's not well. If you've seen his
He
picture.
looks. I just don't.
He looks like an
And I don't have anything
overbloated
coming
whale.
out anyway.
Yeah.
That other question. I just don't. I don't know. He just like, I don't know if I would have thought about that anyhow, but I've heard a couple of people say it. I've thrown cards on it many times with Val and Scott, and just how I feel like when I look at him and everything, and I'm like, this guy's done.
Yeah.
He's also he's older. His health is
Yeah.
terrible. His stress
Perfect,
level
Sharon,
has to be through the roof. He's got all these indictments coming and everything else. They're talking about having a trial be in March.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
We'll
he's
never see
got,
it.
they're looking at trial in, January, March, April. like it's coming at him from all
August.
sides.
Did you see today I was watching Ari Melber, and he has a new videotape of Roger Stone preparing for those electors before the election.
Oh,
So it was on March 5th, and he's there, and this documentarian is doing this thing, and he's talking to
right
this kid.
there would
We're gonna
bury
have-
him alone. That right there, Allie.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Seal the
It's
coffin.
brand new. No one's seen this, but you know.
Oh, wow.
Allison, the first time I saw you take a swig from your water there, I thought it was a bottle of champagne. I was like, oh, she's
Not
partying
me.
early.
No, it's Pellegrino.
Wow.
But,
Just good.
I've
Just
thrown
good.
cards on it numerous times, and I've never picked his energy up as being here.
Right. There's a lot of
Exactly.
people
You
that
get
do that.
weird answers and
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like
Nope.
there's a blankness. It's like there's just no energy here. You know, I just for entertainment purposes only. You two.
That's right.
I just don't.
Mhm.
I just don't see him still here.
Oh, Jamie, they did. Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Good.
Okay, I'll have to.
Ari
And I
Melber
just
is
wanna
always
throw one
really
more
good
thing in
on those
there.
things. Mhm.
and we've
I
read
like
on
Ari
this
Melber.
too, is that if he does get incarcerated, he will not be able to handle it.
No.
Yeah.
He will
That's-
You're right.
self-combust. He won't be able, if they hold him, whether it's in a jail cell or otherwise, he's not going to be able to do that.
No.
Literally.
I think he
That's
might
my
have a
belief.
mental break if,
Already starting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It
I
would
don't
kill
think-
him.
If it came to that, I don't think they would put him in a, a regular prison. I think they would.
well, they won't.
no,
but
No,
he
but
won't be
if
able to
he's
go
not allowed to
golfing
come
or
and
anything.
go, if he can't
Yeah.
come and go at his own will, that is prison
yeah,
in his mind.
Devices. If he
exactly.
Take away his device.
Take away
and-
all those
He won't
devices.
have any of his stuff. He won't have any of his drugs. He won't have any of his
Yeah.
garbage food. He won't have
No.
any of his stuff or his freedom to run his mouth and do all the things that he does. He won't be able to survive.
If they're really smart, they'll let them have a dead camera that looks like it's running and a phone that appears to be running. That goes to nowhere and let him carry on in his little room like he wants. And
That reminds me of my
He's
great
never been
grandfather.
controlled. He's always been
great-grandfather
allowed to do what he wants.
My great grandfather, when he was in his 90s, he was. They had a little cottage, next to the main house, and his daughter and her husband were looking after him. But what they did was they put in a phone that was not connected, and he was making bets for the horse races. So funny, and he's happy as a clam.
Does you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah.
Well, ladies,
Oh,
we have
Jamie.
just hit the 1 hour mark.
Yeah.
Yes,
Time to
ma'am.
go.
So that's pretty good. We wrapped this up on time. Next week will be on Marina's channel. She will be our hostess. So Saturday, everybody will be or Sunday, some of us do it late. We'll be posting a little blurb in our community
Yes.
tab. Go in there and put your questions in you want us to read on. And that's where we take our questions from. And thank you for spending time with us tonight.
Mhm.
Thank you, ladies, for
Absolutely.
bearing your souls for everyone to see and hear for a very difficult topic to talk about.
Yeah.
And y'all all have a great week, what's left of it, and hopefully things will start cooling off.
Yes, please.
Way too hot.
All right.
I'm having a little ladies' night tonight, so we're going to have some wine and appies.
There you
Nice.
go.
Very good.
While I'm house sitting here in this fabulous house.
And I'm going to be
Why
on
not?
next with Arthur, Ease Your Mind. So
Yes.
in about an hour, tune back in. Dragonfly
He is
Circle.
such a sweetie. When he came on my show, he had me in stitches the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is lovely.
Rondell, you go back to sleep. Rondell's up in the middle of the night down there in Australia.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I know.
take care, hon.
All right. Bye,
Bye, everybody.
y'all.
Bye,
Everybody have
everybody.
a great week.
Yep.
See you soon.